All right, everybody. How many glad to be in the house of the Lord today on Mother's Day? Well, if you're a guest of our church, this is not what we do normally on a Sunday. If you go to our church, you say, hey, something's up, something's different. And today we are going to have something different, and we're not going to extend the service, but this will be about another 35 minutes. And based on 30 years of doing this, of pastoring, I've been able anecdotally to put together the top 3 questions that have been asked of me. And I get asked these questions, of all the questions that have been asked over 30 years, these 3 are the main ones that I've been asked. Number 1 is, how do you hear the voice of God? How do I know that's God? Is it me or is it God? And in fact, come back, if you're a guest of ours, come back in August. I'm going to address that for 5 weeks, how to hear the voice of God. Another one is are we living in the last days? I get asked that question a lot. Are we really living in the last days? Is it true that one day Jesus would come back? And I would say to you, yes, that is true. It's in the Bible. If we're living in the last days, I don't know or not, but I do know this, that we're living closer to the end than we were yesterday, for sure. And then I get asked the question, and this is not like a real super hyper spiritual question, is cremation scriptural? Can you cremate? And the answer to that would be yes, you can if you'd like. You don't have to. Dina wants to be cremated, and she wants me to sprinkle her over the mall millennia. And so when Jesus comes back, she'll be right there for the Black Friday sale. But not really. It's Mother's Day. Why did I say that? It's not a good one. Next service, I won't use that, but that wasn't in my notes here. But that's what it just comes to you sometimes. But here it is. Lately, I've been asked this question. In the last 18 months, the number one question that I've been asked over and over and over again is, how do you raise godly kids? Help me with parenting. Help me with it because we're struggling. And I want to say to you, the hardest thing that we've ever done, Dean and I, we've lived overseas. We have built buildings, many projects we've done. The hardest thing that we've ever done is raise children. And I call it a full contact sport. It'll take a lot out of you, but the reward of it is great. Let me preface this. The reason why you're asking this question is because all of us struggle, including us. Nobody is perfect in the home. Nobody's perfect in relationships. And the devil, you need to know something. And so if you're here today, you go, well, we're going to talk about parenting. We're talking about how to steward a generation. We're talking about how to steward influence. Hopefully everybody will get something out of this message today. Because the devil here, because I hear this a lot, he's after this generation. Let me help you out with something. The enemy's always been after every next generation. It's nothing new. Go back to, remember Moses in the Bible? He wanted to get rid of kids, so he went after all the kids. He wanted to get after leaders, he went after all the kids. Remember Jesus? He knew there was a leader coming, so he didn't go after just Jesus. He went after all the kids. It's the same playbook that he's always had to go after the next generation. You want to know why? Because God is a God of generations. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In Acts chapter 2, he said, in the last days, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. We've only ever had 3 goals for our kids. When Dean and I started having children, we sat down and said, what would be the goals for our kids? What do we want? And we just have 3. Number 1 is that they would love God. This is the whole foundation of our home. We just wanted to have a place. We don't care if they go to college. We don't care if they're rich. We don't care whether they get married young, get married old, don't get married. We do care if they have children. And that's a whole other issue. But that they would love God and they would love us. And number 3, that they would use their life to make a difference. They would take the words of the Apostle Paul in Acts 20, where he said, nothing in life matters unless I use it for God's purpose. And so how do we accomplish that? Is through biblical parenting. Biblical parenting is simple. You could sum it up in just one sentence. Biblical parenting is to train the heart. So when they get a chance to make a decision on their own, they'll make the right one. And we got it wrong a lot, I'll be honest with you. And what you're seeing up here today with these 4, you're seeing a lot of grace and a lot of the goodness of God and a lot of just his mercy being poured out. So I want to introduce to those that don't know who these people are. On the far end is John Mark, my son, and his wife Zoe. John Mark is our next gen pastor here, and his wife Zoe does small groups. And they've been married a little more than 2 years. And fabulous, I'm so proud of them. And then we have Dylan and Natalie. Dylan's our creative director. Natalie's my assistant and works our executive team. and they've been married about 2.5 years as well. And so what I wanted to do, I had this idea, and I need to let you know something. They're up here under protest. They've begged me not to do this, and so first they said no, and then I said, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you we're going to do this. And but I said, what if we could, instead of me getting up and teaching another message about how our home operates, what if they could have up here a no holds barred? Like there's only one story off limits. Only one, and John Mark can't tell it. Natty can tell, and the rest can tell any story. But there's only, other than that, I don't know what they're going to say. But I want to interview them, what it was like for John Mark and Natty growing up in our home, and Dylan and Zoe having the influence we've had, and even in their homes, because they have fabulous families and love their parents. Paul and Jen, Tony and Julie are dear friends of ours, love them. They've done a fabulous job raising these children. So here we go. Buckle up, 25 minutes. We're going to get some insight on what we did. Did it work or not? And I'm going to ask them some questions. I have no idea what they're going to say. And maybe next service I'll know better what questions to ask them. And so come back if I don't like the answers. But here we go. Natalie, let's start with you, sweetness, my darling. What is, and I think people would want to know this, what is the one thing that we did that consistently shaped who you are today?
Well, first I'll start off by saying all these years I've sat on that row and I've had stories told about me. It is time for me to tell some stories about my parents. But when I think about one thing that consistently shaped who I am today, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I kind of have a 3-in-1 answer. I would really ultimately say priorities, and that's what he kind of opened up and said, is that we prioritized God in everything we did. We prioritized family in everything we did, and we prioritized church in everything we did. And I think because we were in the ministry, we did it in that order. And so priorities, when you have those priorities and you do them right, I think that everything else really falls into place. I would also say, as I'm kind of thinking this over, so here I am cheating again, I have another little answer, not the one thing, but a huge thing is prayer. I know that my parents have prayed for me every single day since before I was born. I know my grandparents have done the same thing. And since my grandfather has passed away and since I've gotten a little bit older, I've always sat and thought and wondered, I wonder what my life would be like if I didn't have that prayer in my life. And so I'm super thankful for that. And I wonder, what my favorite would be like and stuff like that. So priorities, definitely God, family, and church. And then prayer is a huge one too.
So good, so good. Dylan, jump on that because your story is a little different. Yeah. I've known you for 20 years-ish, 15, 18. Like that, yeah. We got some stories, but Christianity, and your story is one of redemption and restoration. Yeah. And Christianity is not a religion; it's a relationship. So, and you've navigated through some disappointments. So, talk about the one thing that consistently shaped who you are today.
Yeah, to give a little context. A lot of you probably have seen my parents around or know my parents, Paul and Jen. They both serve as ushers, and they went to Mount Dora to help with that campus. But what you might not know is that Paul is technically my stepdad. I call him Dad, and he is my dad, and God redeemed our story amazingly. But he's technically my stepdad, so my biological father was struggled with addiction, and there's a whole host of issues with that, and a whole story that goes along with it. But to give you the Cliff Notes version, my parents got divorced when I was in 6th grade, and so then, like I would say, that what shaped me consistently was having God involved, being involved in church, and those priorities, just like Nat said, like I said, it looked a little different for us, and it felt a little bit more necessary. Like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for church. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for ECBC. And obviously wouldn't be here if it wasn't for God. But God's so good, and he's so gracious, and he's so loving. And it would always make me laugh that people, my high school friends, when they met Paul, my parents got married then, and they got to know him and stuff, they'd be like, I don't know how that happened, but Paul's like your real dad, dude. Yeah. Paul's doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, I know it's because of God. God was involved in our story, and God redeemed it all. So,
amen. John Mark, how did you? Because clearly you started walking off this. You walk in your own faith today, and you are your own man, and it's evident in the way you communicate, and the way you lead, and in your home, and just the way you have influence. But how do we help make your faith your own and not mine? Like what were the, I guess I would say to it like this, what were the non-negotiables?
I think some of if there's one thing that sticks out to me the most with like non-negotiables, first starting off with, how you helped make faith my own was I just saw it work. I just saw faith work. If you want like a blunt answer for, how was faith helped made my own, if your kids see you authentically love Jesus and there is peace in your home, not perfection, peace in your home, it will make them curious about Jesus. It will make them curious about faith, because I saw parents who loved Jesus. I knew that there was something to it. There was substance to it, and that it required, I used to hear my dad, Pastor Nona, say all the time about going all in, giving God a year. I knew that there was something to it, so I wanted to kind of explore that on my own. But then when it came to when it comes to the non-negotiables, it sticks out to me the most when I was a kid was lying. That was a non-negotiable. We did not lie, okay? And, I work a lot with young people now, and one thing I see so much in this generation now, in young people now, is how quick not telling the truth is just like an instinct. It's just like, boom. But what I figured out as I've become an adult, as I've gotten older, is that not only is lying a sin, it's not like, you're not supposed to lie. The Bible says you can't lie. Like, not only is lying a sin, but what I figured out is it's oftentimes an attempt to escape from reality. That, if I just lie about this, I don't actually have to face this problem in my life. But the non-negotiable that I had of no lying really helped me learn how to face the problems that life threw at me. Like, I could face them just head on.
So good, so good. Zoe, jump on that, because we live in a selfie world, and you have such a heart. Everywhere I go, I see you adding value to people. I watch it. You're always adding value. I see you in just watching you. You walk, see people in the room that are by themselves. You go to them. You serve them. We live in a selfie world where it's all about what others think about me. In some way, you're absolutely an adorable, beautiful young lady. And you would think that attention would be to you, but you figured out a way. Tell us about that, like how what was it about that in your upbringing that got you to notice others and to use your life to make a difference in others people's lives?
Yeah, I genuinely think, I've heard it said so much that, things aren't always taught, but they're caught. And that's definitely something that I saw kind of across the board. We've all said that I've seen modeled in my home. I think my mom just did a phenomenal job of loving people. I've seen her not necessarily tell me to do it, but I've seen her go out of her way to feed somebody or give a homeless person groceries out of our grocery haul that I was really excited to eat. One time she actually brought a homeless person with us into Target and got them a cart, and we walked around and listened to his story and filled up his cart. And she really genuinely cares about people, and I think it put it in perspective for me that this is real, and people are worthy and deserving to be valued individually and cared about and loved. And so it was modeled is the short answer.
Yeah, I feel like I'm hearing a theme up here that you can't fake it. That Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. and you will produce, sometimes we see our kids and go, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. We're like, oops, look in the mirror, where they learned that from. But we imitate, Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And there's no way around this. I wish there's like a book you could read that would solve all the issues. And Paul said, basically saying, don't just teach it, be it. Don't just make them pray. And that's one of the things that we have with our kids in church. We've made them all serve and serve on teams because there's needs in the church. But the real reason we did that, I'll give you the backstory, is because we wanted it to become their church, not their parents' church. And so Natty, jump in on this. Do you feel like, with that, your faith, was it forced? Because I know it was a little bit, or was it modeled?
Yeah, I would start off by definitely saying modeled. I mean, they set amazing examples. But I do want to say it was a little bit forced too. And I would say forced is a strong word, but what I mean by that is, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 16-year-old is not necessarily gonna know what is best for them. And so forced in a way, I even mean certain decision making. So like I said at the beginning, we kind of prioritize going to church, and youth group for me growing up was absolutely huge. I mean, it really shaped who I am and shaped my relationship with God. And so putting certain decisions through that lens, like, hey, maybe we can't do this specific sports league because we can't play games on Sunday mornings, but let's do this sports league that doesn't have games on Sunday mornings. Or maybe you guys can't go out Saturday night with friends that late just because, we have church in the morning, or we have school the next day, we have youth Wednesday night. So most definitely it was modeled, and I think that's very obvious, and I think that's very apparent. But I did want to touch a little bit on how it was forced, a little bit just through that kind of decision-making process, for sure.
Dylan, this isn't on your list. Talk to us, because I've heard you say in meetings before that what the church did for you and your brothers. Yeah. Talk about the value of that consistency.
Yeah, that when I gave up my scholarship, when I quit at UCF, we met in your office, and I sat down. I'd felt called. I went to a youth conference, and I went to another conference, and I felt called to ministry. And I sat down in your office with tears in my eyes, and I was like, I want to give to another kid what ECBC gave to me and what God did for me in my life. And so those moments in youth group, being around the right friends, being around the right people, being at youth conference and having moments and encounters with God, and being able to have my own faith, like we talked about a little bit, but being able to know and see the fruit of it in my own life and see the peace of it in my own life. And I literally remember there was a time at kids camp even that Pastor Tina prayed over me, and she said, hey, God's gonna redeem your family. God's gonna heal your family. And I was in third or fourth grade, and it was in the middle. It only got worse from there. For years, it got worse. And I remember that, and I remember holding on to that word and being like, God, I don't know how he's gonna work it out, but God's gonna work it out. God's gonna be our peace. God's gonna take care of us every step of the way. He's gonna be our provider. And then years later, like I said, and in high school and stuff, when God brought Paul into our lives and totally redeemed the whole situation, and we got adopted by him, and God's so faithful to just fix the whole thing. But so I would say being in youth group, being at youth conference, being involved in church, and then seeing my parents model that stuff too.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit. Zoe, what are some things that you appreciate now that happened in your home or with your parenting that you did not appreciate at the time?
Yeah, I think that's a really hard question, because when you're a kid, it's like that's kind of your baseline, right? You don't necessarily always know what to appreciate. It's just kind of what you know. And so looking back, there's so much that I appreciate, and my parents put up with so much from me from about 13 to about 16 that I'm so grateful for. But I would say really what I appreciate is kind of coming into adulthood and being having to be in charge of my own schedule and manage community and balance work and balance all these different things. And I don't even have 4 kids on top of it. I look back and I can't even fathom how they did all of that. I appreciate my parents in a new way of that I see their sacrifice for me. And it's definitely something that I didn't know before. And as a kid, I think a lot of kids probably could speak to this, that they don't recognize the sacrifices that parents make for them, but we come back around. So that's what I would say.
John Mark, jump on that. What are some things, and be sweet, that you appreciate now that you did not at the time?
Yeah. No, the obvious answer, I think, for me is discipline. No one appreciates discipline, but then like 15 years later, I'm like, well, dang, I should have been like beat upside the head for that. Like, I'm surprised I didn't get it worse. But, also helping choose the right friendships, having people in my life, having my parents in my life saying, hey, like, you don't need to hang around these people. These are great people. You don't need to hang around these people. Was something that I was definitely annoyed about, but now I look back on and be like, well, I'm so glad they let me hang out with Dylan and, not other people. And also I think, something I think is super important to think about with your kids too is like, some people may be offended by this, but like, don't let your 12-year-olds date each other. That's just just in youth ministry, just keep an eye on it, stuff like that. I think that's things, you don't appreciate back then, but then now you look forward to it like now and you're like, well, that's... You can find me later if you want me to explain.
Mm-hmm. You good? All right, so... We have about 9.5 minutes. I want to switch gears one more time. Years ago, I was when I was on staff at a church in Oklahoma. Our first job, we didn't have, only 2 jobs. We had this and that, and we were there. And it's so long ago. Is President George W. Bush was governor of Texas. That's how long ago it was. And I got invited to this event, and in this event, I was a young guy, and it was the Bureau of Prisons, the wardens and all that were there, and they're talking about our prisons were overflowing. They're trying to figure out a way to solve the overcrowding of prisons and that kind of a thing. And I remember one of the speakers said, we asked all of these young men that were in prisons, what do they wish their parents would have done different in their life? And this is what they said: I wish they would have said no and meant it. And so I want to tag on that with that thought. What is something that, because you guys are young, what is something you wish more parents knew about kids? Dylan?
Yeah, I think they feel like they're smarter and more grown up than you think. In 6th grade, I thought I was an adult, and then I was fully grown, and then I knew what adults thought and everything. And then in 9th grade, I was like, oh no, I was dumb. I now am grown up. I'm a teenager in high school. I know what it means. And then when I graduated high school, it's the same thing again. And time again, I have proven that I do not know what I'm talking about. And so, but they also know more than you think they know too. I think they're exposed to more things. I think sometimes they're more emotionally intelligent than you think. And that there's so much in the world that comes against them. And so they might also be a little bit more grown up than you think they are. But also they need that reminder and that discipline that you're not an adult, and I do know what's best for you. At least mostly, I know what's best for you.
John Mark, jump on that because you work with Next Gen. What is something that you wish more parents knew about kids?
Yeah, again, I work with a lot of your kids, your middle schoolers, your high schoolers, college students, all that stuff. And just to piggyback a little bit off what Dylan was saying is not only do they think they're so much smarter than you think they may be, but they are so much smarter than you think they are. They are so smart. But they also feel so much more pressure than you think they do. Even if it may not be a real pressure, or maybe you don't even think it's a real pressure, but they feel so much more pressure than you think they do. So much is required of them to succeed. There's that verse, I don't know where it is on the top of my head, that says, to whom much is given, much is required. Well, Gen Z and Gen Alpha have access to more information than any generation ever before like that. And so much has been given to them, much is at their fingertips, and so much is required of them, and they feel that pressure. They feel that weight. And so I think what needs to be known about kids is they need to be reminded that the weight of the world is not on their shoulders, and that they're not alone. It may not even be on their shoulders, but they feel it. And so they just need to be reminded that they're not alone and they're not carrying the weight of the world.
So good. Let me jump on that. I think that if I were to say this, what I have learned is about children, what I wish that you knew about your kids is they want to spend more time with you than you realize. They just don't want to do it on your terms. They want to do it on their terms too. Not when it's convenient for you, but when it's sacrificial. I wish that you knew that your kids really do like. My kids will all tell you, even these, all four of them. I give them, every time I see them goodbye, they're getting a kiss from me. I don't care. And they're going to hear, I love you. They're going to hear, I'm proud of you. And even though it might embarrass them when they're younger, stick with it. They appreciate it. Let me start wrapping it up, Nat. What would you say to the parents who feel like they're not getting it right?
Nobody is expecting perfection. I think that's very obvious. But I would say the best thing that you could do is to get God involved. Ask for his wisdom. Pray for his wisdom. Pray for your kids. But I would say instead of starting by asking God to change your kids, start and ask him to change you first.
Yeah, so good. You're so pretty and you're smart. Zoe, what would you say to the parents who feel like they're not getting it right?
I think that I'm sure I can imagine at some point in my life that my parents would have been in the crowd saying, I don't think we're getting it right. I don't know what's going on with her. And so I just want to encourage you that you're doing better than you think you are, and to take some of that pressure off of yourself. I think a lot of times, especially in youth ministry, John Mark could probably echo that, it's a lot of planting seeds, and it's a lot of waiting for those seeds to grow. And sometimes you may not see the seeds that you're planting right away, but I promise you that your children will carry it with them. And it's never too late to start. That's what I would
So
say.
good. It reminds me of the series that we're in called Redo, where his mercies are our theme of verses. His mercies are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. And today can be the beginning of a brand new start. But I think what you've heard, like this common theme, and I didn't know what would come out of this, is it really requires an insane amount of intentionality. It requires just a laser focus day in, day out. We have 3 minutes. Let's have some fun with this now. What was one tradition that we do as a family that you'll definitely take into your family, Nat?
Definitely family vacation. I think the anticipation of it is even part of the fun. And when I look back on it, the best memories from that is not the things we did or the places we went or whatever, but it's the laughing at the cabin, it's the car breaking down on the way and stuff like that. And so I really think it's just that pure quality time where you're away from the rest of the world. You're away from your home even. The lawn, the laundry, the cooking, and stuff like that. So definitely family vacation.
Very good. I like that. When they all got married, I said to them, now we go on vacation in June. You don't have to go with us if you don't want. You have your own family now. And Dylan said, are you paying? And he said, I'll go. No, he didn't. Not just kidding. No, not really. Dylan, what's one tradition that you'll take into your family?
Yeah, my family all gets together at Christmas. We used to do it on Christmas Eve, and now it's a couple weeks before that. But I used to make fun of this as a kid. I used to think it was awkward, and kind of corny and whatever, but we do all the presents, we do the eating together, we do all the fun stuff together. But there'd be a moment where you read the Christmas story and we would take communion together. And now that I'm older, and now that I know the Bible a little bit more, now that I would have a family of my own, that's something I think is so important, is to bring God into those everyday moments, just like Nat and Zoe said before, like just involving God in the situation, doing the little things and involving God in it. And so just remembering in those moments, God's there too.
Zoe, how about what would you take into your family tradition?
Yeah, something I love that my parents did, they just went the extra mile to make every moment magical in my childhood. And I remember Christmas, again, was a big one for us, and we would go to bed on Christmas Eve, and I never realized that my parents, from the moment we went to bed till about 3 or 4 in the morning, were assembling all of our toys and putting everything together so that when we came downstairs the next morning, it would be ready to go, ready to play with. And I never realized that they were staying up all night on Christmas after I woke them up at 6 a.m. to open my gifts. But that's something that I look forward for doing for our own kids, is just creating those magical moments.
I'm so glad to hear that. John Mark, wrap us up, bud. What's the one tradition that we do as a family that you take into your family?
Yeah, this one, so actually this one Zoe thought we were joking, was every birthday for everybody, we always go out to dinner, and everyone goes around and just says one nice thing about the person whose birthday it is. And so I don't remember whose birthday it was. Zoe came to dinner for the first time, and we're like, all right, we're gonna go around and say one nice thing. And everyone's always like,
I thought they were hazing me.
but no, I think it's always so nice to just be kind to each other. And so I love that.
Yeah, it's the idea behind that is to articulate what's in your heart. And when they're young, they struggle. We say, oh, we'll wait. We'll figure out how to get that out of your heart. We want to teach them to connect their mouth to their heart and to show appreciation to people in their family. Maybe there's things that you didn't even know people thought about you and your family. And it's always been one of the highlights of everyone's birthday, more than the gifts and more than all the other things we do, is to hear from your siblings and from your parents and vice versa, your kids, that what you mean to them. And it's just usually 3 or 4 sentences, and really has added a lot of value to relationships. I want to pray over you all. I want to pray over, because I know in this room there are people that kids are far from God. And I need to remind you of something. God is still in the business of redeeming families. I want to pray over you for a fresh anointing. I want to pray over you for fresh oil to fall from heaven in your home. And maybe, I'm sure not everything that was said was revolutionary to you, but maybe, or revelatory to you, but maybe there was something that was heard that you could apply in your home, and you'd see the fruit of it. Father, I pray for every person. Father, I pray for the families that are hurting right now. I pray for healing. I pray for restoration. I pray for redemption. Father, I pray for the families right now, Lord, that need a fresh beginning, that need a fresh start. I pray, Father, for them, and maybe today can be a fresh start for them, Lord. And I pray for the oil of heaven, the anointing of God, and the wisdom of God to come into their lives. And Lord, I just pray that there was one thing that was said, just one thing, one sentence, one thought, one idea that they could walk out of here today with. And Father, I pray that they could implement it in their life and live a life of intentionality and see the reward of that later on. Father, I pray for the family has lost kids or lost parents that aren't serving you and following you. And I am praying, Father, you'd open the eyes of their heart. I'm praying, Father, that you would track them everywhere they go. They'd go to bed at night thinking about getting their life right with you, and wake up the next day thinking about it. I pray, Father, that you would send laborers across their path, and that the rain of the Holy Spirit would fall in their heart. And so, Father, when that seed is planted, it would produce a quick harvest in Jesus' name. With your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I just want you to pray this little prayer. Just pray this prayer. If you're a young person here, if you're a student here, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you're a young adult, if you're married, divorced, remarried, single mom, single dad, everybody. God, what is the one thing you said to me today? What is one thing you said? And just ask God, what is the one thing you want me to walk out of here today with? And just let God speak to you.